Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews. For over 12 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs of Baltimore. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Dustin Black, the founder and CEO of Black Tie Moving. And Dustin is no stranger to the moving industry. From the time he was a child, Dustin worked in his father's moving company, learning the ins and outs of the industry, while also getting behind the curtain view of exactly who homeowners were trusting their belongings. 8 locations open and 24 new franchise territories under development, Black Tie Moving is rapidly expanding across the nation. We're going to talk to Dustin about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 12 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Dustin Black, the founder and CEO of Black Tie Moving. And Dustin is no stranger to the moving industry. From the time he was a child, Dustin worked in his father's moving company, learning the ins and outs of the industry, while also getting behind the curtain view of exactly who homeowners were trusting their belongings. 8 locations open and 24 new franchise territories under development, Black Tie Moving is rapidly expanding across the nation. Hi, Dustin. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Marty. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you having me.
Oh, thank you, Dustin. This is my pleasure. I was reading about your background and your franchise opportunity. I said I had to have you guys on the show. We would like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Dustin?
Yeah, we're calling from Nashville, Tennessee. This is our corporate headquarters here. So we've been here for about 3 years.
Oh, fantastic. Nashville's a great place, isn't it, Dustin?
Yeah, we love it. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and I grew up there. And after moving to Dallas after high school, we that's where I eventually opened Black Tie Moving. But about 4 years after we opened in Dallas, we decided that we wanted to make Nashville our home base and move our corporate headquarters up here. So we're loving every minute of it, and it's been good to us.
That's fantastic. With your story, typically we say, okay, can you describe the history of Black Tie Moving? But, when I was reading about you, Dustin, I think we almost have to go back to when you were a kid, don't we? Because that was kind of the origin of really real Black Tie Moving to the beginning, and talk about the evolution of this whole concept. Okay.
Yeah, so I started, my father opened his first moving company when I was 4 years old in Memphis, Tennessee. Wow. And we, of course, I didn't start moving furniture when I was 4, but about the time I was old enough to carry a box, I think I was about 9 or 10 years old. He, he had me out on jobs, helping out, and obviously, working in the business and helping him out. So, I got a lot of great experience at a young age, and my father was is one of those fathers that he's very big on promoting hard work ethic, even at a young age, and that's exactly what he did. And boy, what did he drive that home, because moving furniture is not an easy job.
I can't
especially
imagine.
At a young age. So whenever I was about 9 or 10 years old, I started helping him out in his business, and I played a lot of baseball growing up. So in the summers and every weekend, I would continue to go out on moves and learn the operational side of his business. And through that time, it was an incredible learning experience, because not only did I get to kind of see, I got kind of the behind the scenes view of what consumers get on a traditional moving day, if you will,
right?
Not just from the process and the systems, but also from the people. And I just, growing up in Memphis, and my father was just like every other moving company, at that time. I mean, this was, 30 years ago almost. It really wasn't. There was no experience. It was really, hey, we're gonna try to find, the only guys that we can pay $10 an hour to go move furniture in the 100-degree weather, or the freezing cold, and it's the labor pool was it was filled with ex-felons and drug addicts and just people that we typically would not want in our home, and I didn't really enjoy working next beside these guys. I grew up kind of despising the industry because of the individuals that I worked around each and every day. And, it was one of those things that, I knew what they were doing in the truck. I knew that they did the night before. I knew what they did, they're trying to ride the clock out and tack on extra fees and charges just so, they could get paid, and tried to, find ways to kind of get one over on the consumer, and obviously, I would go back and tell my dad about it every time, so that none of them liked working with me very, very much. But one of those things that I really, as I got into high school, and I mean, man, that's how I paid for my first car. My dad said, wow, all my friends were parents were buying them, brand new trucks and all this stuff, and my dad said, well, I tell you what, son, when I was 16, he said, you can work this entire summer and I'll match whatever you make moving furniture. Wow. And that's what you'll go buy your car with. And so that's how I took my girlfriends to the movies on the weekends. That's how I paid for everything that I did. And, so I really didn't have a choice. I didn't really enjoy it, but it was the best money I could make, as a high school, kid. So it was, so whenever I graduated high school, I got my senior year. I had a pretty bad knee injury. I tore my meniscus and my patella tendon, and it put me out of the game for good. And my parents couldn't afford to send me to college, so I had to find something to go pro in besides baseball, and I was going to have to do it without a college education. So it was one of those things. My dad, he said, well, son, I guess you can always stay here and run the family business, and I said absolutely not, and I ran as fast as I could to Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
And so I got into property management, leasing apartments actually when I was 18 years old. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I got a job in kind of like, I guess, the mailroom, so to speak, in the corporate world at Countrywide Home Loans, and worked my way up through the corporate ladder. And about 2.5 years later, I became the number one loan officer in the country for the largest mortgage company in the world at the time. So that was kind of how I got out of running the family business for Dad for that initial those early years. And I started a career in mortgage, and obviously we did about $300 million a year in home loan transactions. So obviously I was the kind of the expert advisor and the guy that was walking all of these consumers all over the country through this mortgage process and home buying process with their real estate agents, obviously. And, I saw so many great real estate transactions. Obviously the home loan, the home loan process is not always easy, but for the most part, you kind of either qualify or you don't, and underwriting can be tough at times, but it's probably one of the hardest processes through that home buying experience, just kind of trying to figure out what you qualify for and what kind of home you can purchase and what kind of rate you're going to get, what your payments are going to be. And we would get these clients all approved for their loan, and they would get moved into they would purchase their dream house, they would close on it, and then I would hear moving nightmares, by the hundreds every month of people that were they had really had their home buying experience kind of spoiled at the very last, portion, which was obviously them moving into their new home. And, this is something that it doesn't matter if you're moving into $1 million home or $100,000 home. It's still all of your things that you've invested so much time and money in. And, when people don't really care for, your things or your home or have that respect for, you and your family on such a stressful day, it can, really, be the one thing that kind of makes that whole exciting, fun process, end in a, like I said, in a terrible experience with your move. So, kind of over the years, I just kind of took note in the mortgage industry, and obviously I had a lot of real estate agents that sent me business, and I ended up leaving and starting my own mortgage company back in 2008. And kind of when the mortgage crisis when everybody was running, I was going all in. Which I don't know if that was the greatest idea, but it worked out okay. We ended up, I partnered with a publicly traded company and opened my own branch there in Dallas, Texas. And about 18 months later, the company decided that they were going to sell, and I was out of a job. And I at that point, I kind of I just got married. My wife was pregnant with our first daughter, and I kind of was just like, man, what am I going to do? The mortgage industry wasn't as profitable as it was in the early 2000s, and so I sent an email out to my database of real estate agents, which was about 20,000 real estate agents, and this was actually right after we moved into our first home that we built in Dallas. And, I was a pretty educated consumer in that sense. I knew where to find, their license and their insurance to make sure that, they were at least licensed in insurance, and then went out and looked for their reviews. But I also sent an email out to my database of real estate agents asking them, do you have a moving company that you refer? If so, who? And if not, why? Mm-hmm. And the feedback that I got was pretty astonishing. 93% of my database said that they did not have a moving company that they referred.
That's incredible.
So going through that process, and then, so I hired kind of what I found to be the best and the most experienced, the most reputable in the city of Dallas. They were the largest moving company. I won't say any names here, but they were the largest moving company in our market and the largest independent company in the U.S. And they came out and they had, 2 beat up trucks and, guys that, were smoking cigarettes and not in uniform and, just kind of looked like they crawled out of the federal penitentiary. And that's who I had invited into my home that morning to pack all of our, our personal belongings and protect our furniture and transport it, to our new home. And, it wasn't a, obviously that was kind of first impression, but as the day went by, they ended up damaging about $35,000 of my furnishings and damage to my new home that I had just built. And and about I guess it was 3 months later, I received a check for $236 as a settlement. So it, as you can imagine, as a consumer, it just put an incredibly bad taste in my mouth. And I just looked at my wife and I said, "There's got to be a better way to do this." And obviously, I kind of had all the technical skills via default, growing up working for my father, and at this point, I kind of become more of a digital marketing expert with with Facebook for Business and all these things coming out in 2010. That's kind of how I differentiated myself as a mortgage banker with my real estate network and professionals. I would teach them how to brand themselves and generate leads online. In return, hopefully they would send me their business, right? So I really I saw just an opportunity in the market, and I looked at everything that just as a consumer I thought that it was missing. And really it just kind of blew me away that these that there hadn't been something created like this that really really a moving company that really concentrated on professionalism and customer service and transparency, and really protecting the client from the very first phone call by giving them all the information that they need to know, not just what we wanted to tell them, and also just hiring a different level of labor to come out and perform these moving services on moving day. And I wanted to really create an experience for homeowners and consumers, in Dallas that they could be proud of and excited about, and I think that's what we've done so far. But it's been a great ride, and it's just amazing to kind of see everybody that's involved in it now, and how fast we've grown over our first 6 years. It's just a blessing from God, first and foremost. But we've got an amazing group of people, an amazing team around us that help us, bring this experience to life every day.
It's an amazing story, Dustin. I've done 600 and almost like 50 of these interviews, and it's really an amazing story as you're telling it. It's you were truly able to satisfy this need in the market. It's amazing that nobody else really came forward and said, this is a really big problem here in the United States,
sure.
Probably even maybe in other countries, and I guess that the personal experience, that happened to you and your wife and your family, when it didn't go so well. That was kind of like you said, it was almost like your sign from God, right? It's saying, okay, this is where you got to go. This is your opportunity, and you really took advantage of it. So it's really an amazing situation, and it is very stressful. I thought, last time we moved was 12 years ago, and it was the same for us. It was just very stressful. A lot of the as the story as you were describing it, some of those things happened to us as well, and
sure.
you just think, well, okay, well, it's just that's the way it is, and this is part of moving, But how does your dad feel today? That you're back in the business. I don't know if he's still here, but how does he feel that you're back in this industry?
You know what? He's proud of me. I think that he knows that he knows that this is something that our family's all kind of lived and breathed over the last 30 years, and he's actually one of my biggest competitors still to this day in our Memphis market, which most people are like, man, isn't he upset about that coming in? And but no, we're very close, and he will always be one of my best friends, and he's been there to mentor me and help me along the way in anything that I needed. So it's been great having that level of mentorship kind of through this process, and just from the technical perspective, I kind of grew into the sales and marketing and customer service guy, but
right.
When it comes to actually the technical skills of moving expensive pieces or unique items, or we get thrown. We've been thrown about every curveball that you could possibly be thrown after doing.
Wow.
I think we've completed over 60,000 moves to date, and it's always nice having my father to kind of lean on whenever I need something from a technical skill perspective, but he's great. He's actually about to retire, so I'll be glad whenever I don't have to compete against him anymore, because he's good too.
Great. That's fantastic. It was interesting, in studying your business model, Dustin. There was a lot of things that really, stood out. You were talking about customer service, and I've always had the perception that, once the service has been provided, then that's it after that. You don't ever hear from the company again, and they don't contact you. Sure. But it really doesn't work that way for Black Tie Moving. It seems like, you still have that relationship with the customer, or you're still there for them, aren't you, after the transaction has taken place? That's important, isn't it?
It sure is, man. People at the end of the day, as a consumer, we just want somebody who truly and genuinely cares about,
right.
Our experience, our service, and our furniture and our family. You know what I mean? If I'm a consumer in the moving industry. So, we in 2015, I designed a concierge platform that it's called Black Tie Home Concierge. We basically come in, and from the moment of the first phone call, when they call to book their move, we also set them up with our VIP concierge, which handles all kind of the nagging tasks that moving anywhere has to offer, like shopping for your utilities and connecting your utilities and best service providers and cable internet, TV, security, all of those things that we have to focus on when we're moving, right? It's not just the move. We're having to literally, transfer everything, in our life from, our creditors that we pay to, obviously all of our utilities and phone, cable, internet, and things like that. So what our concierge does is we have open API with about 34,000 providers, which is about 99% of everyone that's available at every address. And our concierge basically shops for the best rate and connects these services for them, saving them about 6 to 8 hours on the front end before we even show up to their front door on moving day. So that's something, and they still have this app and the Home Concierge app to kind of refer back to, after they've moved in, if they need a landscaping company or insurance, or if they're looking for another, home expert. We kind of want to be that expert advisor within, all of their home services, if you will. So we want to continue to serve them and help, guide them through, that home ownership process and what all the things that brings, even after we've moved them in, and hopefully, that drives enough value home that, whenever they're ready to move again, they give us a call. So
that's terrific. I think those are wonderful services, Dustin. And it sounds like your movers are also employees to the business as well. As you're saying, Dustin, I think, I always had the perception that, again, it was a long time ago, but the gentlemen that helped move us in, I mean, they could have been from anywhere and everywhere. They were, I can't remember what they were wearing, but it seems like your employees are wearing uniforms. They're from Black Tie.
Absolutely.
Exactly. That's important to the customer, isn't it?
It is. So technically in, the moving industry just traditionally has been a big contracting game, right?
Yeah.
So, they'll contract a driver out, and, the driver will go pick up labor, day labor, so to speak, that aren't experts in moving furniture and the different techniques and the things that they need to know to, protect the homeowner's goods at the highest level. I just knew in the beginning that, I had to, it's great to put a fancy name on your brand and roll out a red carpet, into the door and put tuxedo T-shirts on the guys. But if they're not, a higher level of labor and just, if they're not trained in customer service and professionalism, that's the one thing that, you really can't teach people. You know what I mean? I can't teach you how to become, how to be a great person. I can teach you how to become a great mover, right? So that's really what we started hiring on early on. It's like, hey, I just want good, honest guys that I can teach. They're coachable, and, we're going to hire on professionalism and customer service first, and then we're going to teach them to be expert movers. And you're right. All of our guys are employees, and we have a lot more control that way, obviously, just as a corporation. And we're able to create a much better culture and environment for these guys, and also a career path for them. So, our guys have the opportunity to start out at movers, without a college degree, obviously, make $50,000 to $80,000 a year on the high end if they drive. And then once they're kind of, once they've mastered that, now with an organization, their opportunity is to, they want to go and they want to be an assistant operations manager and grow into an operations manager after that, and then move on to actually an operating partner in one of our corporate locations. So we call that kind of process there, that opportunity to mover to millionaire. Because we've already made movers millionaires just by providing them with equity, in these locations that they go and they start up once we've kind of brought them through our organization, our process, and our training model.
That's amazing. The name is great too, Dustin. I don't know if you came up with the name Black Tie Moving, but it does give you a certain image or perception, doesn't it? When I hear it, what a clever name. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, so that's, and that's really what we wanted. We wanted people to think that, of first whenever they were looking at our brand, aside all the others out there in the market, because we really do, that's what we pride ourselves on is being the most professional and the most customer service oriented moving industry professionals that are there not only to, move your things from point A to point B without damaging them, but really create an enjoyable experience, for you and your family, throughout that moving day and just, having those guys in your home that you like and that you trust, man, it just makes a world of difference on moving day.
You've had some pretty big names, too, as clients, too, Dustin. I was reading a little bit about that, too. I mean, that certainly doesn't hurt the business, does it? Having those big names as clients, it says a lot about trust, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. We've, I don't know if we kind of fell into that or not, but I think that, obviously luxury homeowners and even now, celebrities have really been drawn to the brand because obviously, that's what they're looking for on moving day. And sometimes they have a lot of incredibly expensive things that they're very nervous about. So, they have, they really have, just kind of grown into raving fans of our business. And it's, celebrities like Carrie Underwood, Tony Romo, and Gary LaVox for Rascal Flatts, and Mookie Betts. We've literally moved hundreds and hundreds of celebrities, and now we've got several of them are now partners and franchise owners across the country now, because after they experienced, for example, Gary LaVox of the Rascal Flats, we moved him. He was one of our first moves in Nashville, and his wife saw my truck moving me into our neighborhood. We moved here from Laguna Beach, California about 3 years ago, and Gary's wife saw our moving truck and was like, "Man, that's the moving company that was on $1 Million Listing LA that we saw." And they had a move coming up, so they had their assistant give us a call, and we didn't even know that it was them that we were moving until moving day, and it was it was very flattering that obviously they hired our services. But after we provided them this experience, we really kind of I fell in love with their family. They were just such great people, and I've been a big Rascal Flatts fan for a long time. It's my mother's favorite band of all time, and
that's
at
great.
the end of the move, we said, hey, they were writing a check for their move, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a lot, and and they and I said, hey, I think that we can all we've moved thousands of people a year, and I would rather you write this check out to your favorite charity, which I knew was the Tim Tebow Foundation. So at the end of the move, we just kind of decided they're very Christian family that just treated our guys tremendously well, and I made that one kind of I don't know, I guess it was just kind of a game time decision at the end of the move, and now that I think about it, I think it was like a $12,000 or $13,000 move, and Gary's wife started crying, and she was like, why would you do this? I can't believe that you would work all this for the last 4 or 5 days with us and then donate it all to charity. Just so we connected over that, and about a year later, Gary and I had kind of become pretty good friends through over that year, and he was like, "Man, we've got to bring this moving company to my home state of Ohio." So about a year and a half ago, we opened our Columbus market. And now we're in Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. And Gary LaVox is my partner in all three of those markets.
That's amazing. What a great story. It's really it's a fascinating story. So did you know early on, Dustin? Was franchising a model that you thought of early on? When you started this whole concept, or did it just kind of like evolve into saying, you know what, I got this system here, I could franchise it?
You know what? It's kind of funny you asked that question, because to be completely transparent, I never wanted to franchise. I'm kind of a control freak in the sense of my brand, and this is like my baby, that we've created, and that we we work very hard to build, the best reputation, in our industry and every market that we're in. And the thought of me kind of putting that in somebody else's hands made me very nervous in the beginning. And really, so, we'd kind of been approached with it. But a buddy of mine that actually, his name's Jason Anderson. He's the president of Accurate Franchising, and this was kind of the same team that had taken, like your 2 Minute Truck brands and things like that,
right?
To 350 locations. And I guess the more I learned about the franchising model and kind of the control we had just to hand select our franchisees and do our due diligence and make sure that these were people that shared, the same values as we did, and that, the same ethics and the same passion for creating, this incredible experience for people, on one of the most stressful days of their life. And
of course,
that's kind of where we started. We ended up franchising the brand back in, I guess it was like, April and May of last year.
Okay.
And we just, it was amazing to me. We haven't even started advertising yet, even to date. But it was amazing to me that the people that were interested in it, and it wasn't, we weren't getting online leads and talking to strangers. These were influencers and owners of, major real estate companies.
Wow.
Other celebrities and entrepreneurs that that I'd known just from being through going to different events and speaking at different events, and it just obviously it made me feel good to know that all of these other people are getting as excited as I am about a mission and to deliver this experience and kind of try to revolutionize this industry a little bit and bring it up to speed, because it is a dinosaur. It has been for a long time. And we're completely, just at awe and blessed, to have all these people interested in such a short period of time. And, now that we're there, and now that, we're in this franchise model, I can't imagine not doing it, because we have incredible people involved. From our Atlanta franchisee owns Keller Williams and the state of Georgia, so you can imagine big real estate owners franchise owners are now buying our moving company to plug into their business as an ancillary business, and they already own the best leads that we could pay for online or go and go and get just through grassroots marketing. So everyone from them, Luke Pell he's a kind of celebrity country music artist. He partnered with the owners of Keller Williams in Kentucky, and they bought Lexington and Louisville. And we have it's just amazing. And I think that if I would not have franchised, and kind of let my control get the best of me, right? And not just entrust in other people that we saw something in, because that is one thing. We're not out just giving franchises out to everybody that has the money to buy one. We hand select these folks, and we really want to make sure that they have the ingredients to be successful, and also just they have the passion and the ethics that we kind of hold ourselves to, and all of our movers to, because we know that everything that leader and everything that they do in their particular market is going to bleed down through the movers, and we just we think it's incredibly important that these franchisees are just the right people, right?
Of course, yeah, and it sounds like that's what you look for, Dustin. When you're meeting with someone, as the franchise continues to grow, and you're going to be meeting with a lot of prospective franchisees. It sounds like in talking to you, that ethics is pretty much at the top, isn't it? When you say, okay, this person's going to be a good match for Black Tie Moving, aren't they?
Correct. Yeah, because obviously the trust level has to be very high, and
sure.
it's very easy to kind of fall back into, it's easy to do what's easy. Sometimes it's not always easy to do what's right. And we want people that are going to do what's right, not just for their profit margin and their bottom line, but for our consumers when something goes wrong, and hold, themselves accountable whenever they make a mistake. Because I think that's probably, we're in the moving industry, right? Accidents are going to happen.
Sure.
It's inevitable.
Right,
it's like saying every car is going to get on the road today and there's not going to be an accident that happens. So I think that, it's obviously, being very proactive and planning, having a solid plan that protects the consumer when accidents do happen, providing adequate insurance for our customers, before their move, instead of just, sticking them with the 60 cents per pound, which, the government says that we have to provide them. Which isn't a whole lot, as you can imagine. It's basically, if you paid $5,000 for a TV that weighed 100 pounds, they're going to give you $60 for it. So as you can imagine, consumers aren't real happy whenever that kind of thing happens. So, it's a lot goes into it on the front end, just making sure that they're all packed and padded correctly. But, we only have about an 8% damage rate across the board out of all of our moves, in which the industry standard is 3 to 4 times that. So, it's a little easier for us to make the customer happy and just do what's right, even sometimes when they're not right. We still want to make them happy. Of course. Without being, unless we see that they're trying to, take advantage of us. Obviously, I mean, there are. It's a case by case basis, but I think there's no better advertising than being undeniably great at what you do, and we are moving experts. But we're really a customer service company that just happens to move people. I think that it's just really what sets us apart. We want to invest in the men that are performing your move, and we knew that we'd have to come in and recruit and pay a lot more, and maybe even charge a little bit more. In the beginning we did charge a lot more, and we were kind of just that luxury moving company. But after about the first year, I figured out a way to make it affordable for everybody, because at the end of the day, everybody deserves this level of service. I don't care, how poor or rich you are. If you can afford a professional moving company that has their license and insurance, you can afford black tie. So we're not, more expensive than than any of our competition. That is licensed and insured and has, at least decent reputations. We're within about 10% of our pricing. So, I think that building the value up and all the value that we add to, these homeowners, and when they see our name, they kind of almost expect us to be more expensive, right? And when they understand that it is affordable for them, it really just gives us a big advantage, obviously, when competing against the competition in any market that we're in.
That's great. How does the training work, Dustin? I mean, do they typically come to headquarters for that? I mean, once you decide they are a match and they can become a franchisee, they come down to headquarters. How does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty extensive, and we'll go back to me just kind of being a control freak, if you will, and not controlling the franchisee, but I really wanted to give them the ability to, it's typically not something that any of my franchises, as a matter of fact, none of my franchises have had any moving experience prior to buying ours. We bring them into our office for 1 week, and then we take them through a classroom training with their operations managers, obviously the owners, if that is a different person, so to speak. So, we bring them in here for a week, then we go to them for a week on the front lines. And, we also, when we have a network, we have about 700 movers that work for us nationwide. So what we've been able to do is kind of, pull some guys from different markets to go help them get started and help them get trained help them train their guys in the local, at the local level. And, the model that we built, Marty, I worked 18 hours a day for about 2 years, I think. It felt like that anyway. And I spent so much time, I was the sales guy, I was the business development guy, I was the mover manager, the dispatcher, the customer service person. I was everything, and it really it took up a lot of time, and it didn't give me a lot of time to work it didn't give me a lot of time to work on my business because I was so busy working in my business. And that's what whenever we built out our corporate locations, we already had a call center that was basically handling all the sales, customer service, compliance, all the things that really, that take a lot out of your day. I mean, it's hard to be out doing, quality assurance and quality control whenever you're having to answer sales calls and or customer service calls. So, what's going to happen is inevitably, if you're trying to do both at the same time, you're going to suffer because your customer is going to suffer from a customer experience and service perspective. So what we've done is we've built a corporate call center that literally we do everything from we generate the lead, we estimate the lead, we close the lead, and we put it on their calendar. So our franchisees really don't pick up the ball until the move has been booked and they're ready to make their confirmation call the day before and then send their movers out to actually execute the move on moving day. So that's the real differentiator that we do, and the level of support that we give, I guess just compared to any other franchise that I know of realistically. Every time a move is booked, they pay $35. That covers their salesperson, their customer service throughout the lifetime of the move or after the move. It covers their compliance. And, obviously we have a large team with sales managers and things like that make sure all the details are correct and that, they're really just setting up our operations team for success. So, we really want our franchisees to focus on, three things, primarily on the front lines. We want them to focus on, obviously, recruiting movers, quality control, and business development. And we really kind of take the rest, off their plate on the front end. Now, of course, they have a little, business administration on the back end, but that stuff's pretty easy with the technology that we have today. So we're a digital company, we're paperless, and once those moves are complete, it really just kind of everything gets time stamped and goes into their back office to where they can just kind of print out a report and do payroll and obviously match up the accounting for the day and things like that. So we've tried to make it as easy as we possibly can on them so that they could work on their business and building our brand through community outreach and business development with real estate partners and things like that. That way, and like I said, it worked. It's the same exact model that we had for our corporate locations. The same level of support that we show our corporate locations is the same level of support that we show our franchise locations. So there is no difference whatsoever. And it's really just pass-through cost, that $35 that they pay. If you're doing 100 moves a month, that's $3,500 a month that you're getting, expert salespeople, estimators, customer service, and compliance. And 100 moves a month is $1 million business a year. So that's pretty cheap for a sales team for $1 million a year business. When you really think about it, especially when you don't have to pay for office rent or, any of the phone utilities, any of that kind of stuff, that's it's a really good deal.
That's a great model. So where do you see, Dustin, I mean, if you could look into a crystal ball, maybe, 3 to 5 years down the road, I mean, where do you see Black Tie moving?
Well, we, I would say that, first and foremost, we just want to be the best in every market that we service. We've been blessed to find lots of people that we sold and we rolled out our first 24 locations on March 1st, or 24 franchise locations on March 1st, and we've got about 14 additional locations in escrow right now that we are going to roll out within the next 60 days. And we've kind of taken a page out of the LeBron James Blaze Pizza model, right? with our celebrities. So, in Ohio, Gary LaVox is the face of black tie moving. Right. I've got about 5 other major athletes. I've got the biggest face in ML and Major League Baseball right now that's coming on board. We're opening corporate offices together. Probably one of the biggest faces in NFL, several others in country music. So we've almost built a menu of celebrities to act as that celebrity face of the company that's basically just recognizable in these markets. And what we do is we look for kind of like the hometown heroes, right? Gary LaVoxes of Ohio, the Mookie Betts of Boston. These guys that when we put their face on our brand, it's just throws gas on the fire, and it's really quite special. But we do think that when LeBron started kind of endorsing that franchise opportunity in a business that he already owned and supported, that's when they blew up, and I believe became one of the fastest selling franchises in history. I know, incredible. Definitely in the hospitality, world. So we've kind of, we started to do that. We're gonna roll out a program with about 5 major celebrity influencers that are going to actually become area developers, and they're going to basically be endorsing our business opportunity, as with their partnership. This franchise opportunity to all of their fans, across the country. So, our goal for this year is 100 franchises. And I know that might sound crazy, but I can promise you that really, without even trying, if you will, we're going to start advertising about mid-year this year, and we've got a pretty creative strategy as far as to go to market with our celebrities and them just kind of being the face and creating videos and having them sell the opportunity from in their own words to their fans. Aside from that, we've got a lot of support from the Keller Williams organization. We've got I bet we'll probably have at least 40 locations that these, owners of the Keller Williams franchise will, let's say for Atlanta, for example, that will just go in and buy the moving company like they're, like they'd buy a title company or a mortgage company to plug into their real estate business. So that's been huge for us, and it's really kind of caught fire amongst the largest real estate companies and organizations throughout the country. I do a lot of speaking and at real estate events, and because I still train real estate agents and coach them from the stage as far as how to build a big brand and how to create that raving fan experience. It's paying off. So I think that we'll continue to do all of those things. In the next 3 to 5 years, I would love to see us sell out and have 350 locations across the country. But we're gonna take that day by day. And like I said, in our in our business, I don't care about being the biggest unless we're the best, if you will. So I think we'll let kind of our we'll let this first year kind of tell us the story as what we can handle operationally, because what I don't want to do is oversell and undersupport. So, of course, that's very important to me, and I want to deliver every single one of our franchisees the same, experience that similar to what we do our customers or what we do our referral partners in the real estate industry. It's all about creating a great experience for them that they can win in, and that allows them to duplicate what we've already done, and our website and our web presence is a big part of that. I kind of touched on before that we were kind of a customer service and digital marketing company that just happens to move people, but we've got partnerships with like the Tennessee Titans, with the official moving company of the Titans, of the Memphis Grizzlies. We're bringing on several other major league ball teams this year in the in Major League Baseball and also in college football. So we not only act as like a sponsor, for these organizations, but they're our customers too. We're providing them all of their logistics needs. So hauling their equipment to away games for the Titans, or any of these college teams, they have logistical needs too, and it's really amazing, man. If you'd have told me 5 years ago when I started this thing that I would be working with my favorite baseball players and my favorite country music artists and my favorite sports teams, through this moving company, I would have probably laughed and told you were crazy. But it's happened, and it continues to grow. And I think that as this franchise gets crowdfunded through celebrities and these major corporate partnerships and sports marketing partnerships, I think just really the sky's the limit.
That's amazing. What's the best way for our listeners, Dustin, to get more information on Black Tie Moving, as, of course, the service and even more specifically the franchise opportunity? Any websites that we can direct them to?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's just www.blacktiemoving.com.
Okay.
You can go to that page, and it'll have a Franchise with Us tab that you can get more information on the franchise. We also have blacktiemovingfranchise.com that they can visit and get a little bit more information on the actual franchise as well. But what we've done is really made this an affordable franchise for anybody that's looking, into going into business for themselves, or retiring from corporate America like I did, and kind of going out on a limb and opening my own business. We've really put the blueprint and the model together for you, to where you just have to plug into the system and join the family, and we kind of hold your hand the entire way. We're not one of those franchises that is going to sell you a business and then you're on your own. We're one big family here, and we're here to support our franchisees the entire way.
That's fantastic. I've really enjoyed talking to you today, Dustin. I as I mentioned, I've done like about 650 interviews, and this has become one of my favorites. So I want to thank you for coming on the show today. And I'd like to invite you back in the future as you continue to grow. Thanks, Dustin. It's great to have you on the show. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Need a business loan? Talk to Diamond Financial Services, the experts in franchise financing nationwide. Whether you're looking to start a franchise, acquire an existing franchise, or expand your territory through opening new locations, Diamond Financial stands by your side start to finish. From pre-qualification to packaging and presenting your application to securing a financial commitment, and through the loan closing process, Diamond Financial is there. While you're waiting, thousands of others are making their financial dreams come true. Don't wait any longer. Pre-qualify now by completing a confidential, no-obligation financial analysis. Let's face it, traditional banks just aren't in the business of financing small business. At Diamond Financial, we specialize in securing franchise loans from $100,000 to $3 million and equipment leasing up to $150,000. Let us help you get started. Go to www.franchisefunding.net or call 877-508-2274.
That's franchisefunding.net, 877-508-2274.
Today's great quote in franchising is being brought to you by
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time, we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today's Great Quote in Franchising podcast comes from Mary Jane Riva, the CEO of Pizza Factory. And Mary Jane gave some great advice. You know, one of the questions we frequently ask on the show when we have someone like Mary Jane is, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? And she said that you should look under the hood. And, you know, I thought her advice was very original, but you have to listen to the podcast to find out why. So here we go with Mary Jane Riva, CEO of Pizza Factory. Buy franchise. You know, we've been doing the show such a long time now, and one of the biggest things we've learned is that, you know, a lot of our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise, they don't know where to begin because, like you were saying earlier, there's so much out there today. You know, I mean, there's just so much to choose from. Most of them don't even know where to begin. It just becomes overwhelming.
Yep.
You know, from everything you've learned, you know, up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners?
Well, there's a couple things, and one that as we're going through this journey ourselves from being a franchisee to the franchisor, it's understanding the roles of the franchisor versus the franchisee. That's a really big important, really what is the role that you're playing versus the franchisor. And then when you're looking at brands, the other thing for brands to me is really looking under the hood. Don't just look at all the stuff on the surface. Really dig down. See what extra charges there. You know, are they marking up stuff? You know, really evaluate a brand to a brand and not just the fluff kind of stuff that you see on the top. And it's a lot of due diligence.
Right.
But, you know, ask the questions that are going to be once you're in there. You know, are they marking up the food product? Are they marking up advertising materials? You know, what are you paying? So really, really dig down and ask a lot more questions. And I would talk to a lot of franchisees that are in the system and see how they feel about the franchisor and the brand itself. I would do a lot of due diligence with franchisees because they're the ones that are going to tell you.
Right, absolutely. I love how you said look under the hood. You know, as I mentioned, doing the show such a long time, I've never heard that analogy before. I think that's very clever, to look under the hood, you know, to go deep, you know, inside and look what's under, not just what's on top. You know, we have this great quote in franchising. I'm going to put that one in there because I think that's fantastic. You know, it makes a lot of sense. And, you know, Pizza Factory, I mean, you have a lot of franchisees you can call, right? I mean, I think you're up to, is it over 100 franchisees now, Mary Jane? So there's plenty of people,
We've got
you know,
some that have,
oh, good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say we
okay.
have them. They've been in the system for 30 years. We have franchisees, that have been in that long, and we have them that are just getting on. So there's a wide range. So, and you want to hit all those. You want to hit the newbies. You want to hit the older ones. You want to get their feel of what's been going on and how they've been treated. And but yeah, there's a lot of people to call. There's a lot of people to ask. There's a lot of different town sizes. So when you're doing your due diligence, really, really, really get out there and dig deep.
If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Pizza Factory, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchise interviews by category page, and click on food franchises, and you can hear the whole interview there. And lastly, we'd just like to thank everyone for making this podcast such a huge success. It's hard to imagine when we started this show that our Great Quotes and Franchising podcast was going to become just as big as our regular show. So we want to thank everyone again and continue to listen to our Great Quotes and Franchising podcast, sponsored by Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Always read the fine print, they say. Well, I don't know who they are, but they sure don't work for Jack Lair Heating, Cooling, and Electric, because our no fine print guarantee means just what it says. There's no fine print to read on our contracts. Guaranteed. For emergency service, system maintenance, or to schedule an estimate for a new HVAC system, visit jacklair.com. That's jacklehr.com, an independent Trane dealer serving the Lehigh Valley area for 50 years. Disclaimer, there is no disclaimer because there's no fine print. Have a great day.